Hello viewers, welcome to this special video. I'm going to lower the camera as I go along here. We are going to have a socially distant conversation. I guess that's the term that we're all using these days with this pandemic. We're going to talk about what has happened to the United States in the past 6 months since this unimaginable pandemic started. I wanted to do this outside, but we're also going to discuss why I'm not outside today, because we're going to talk about climate change as well. We're going to talk about that because there's a lot we have to talk about. We have to talk about the pandemic, we got to talk about climate change, and we got to talk about a very pivotal, very hostile election coming up, because it is unimaginable to think that we are not too far away from the 2020 election. You know, it's crazy to even think that, but I feel like I'm in this fast time loop that just won't stop. It somewhat feels slow, but somewhat kind of feels fast for me. So, we'll get into it. So, first up, we're going to talk about the pandemic. It's been officially 6 months since the pandemic started. The U.S. declared a national emergency on March 13th, so that officially makes 6 months, even though I am taping on the 15th. And a lot has changed for the good, a lot has changed for the bad. The bad I'll get into with the political climate in our country and the climate change, because the climate change just seems to get buried in all of this, which upsets me, because a lot has to be discussed on that. But first, let's talk about the good, because I've noticed that there is some good during this pandemic. The good is New York has been very smart on this pandemic. Now, yes, I'm mad at Cuomo for the nursing home situation. That also has to do with Trump, because Cuomo didn't listen to the CDC, and that was also Trump's fault in that sense. So in a way, you can both blame Cuomo and Trump for the whole, fatality situation with New York State nursing homes. And to this day, I still think Cuomo should be sued on that. But, I mean, so far, Cuomo, other than that, he's done a good job handling this pandemic. I will say that. We have almost now a month and a half of the rate of infection being below 1%. And that's because we are wearing a face mask, being outside, or in my case, working from home, dealing with this transit mess, which I'll also get into as we go along here. But to stay on topic, we're doing the right thing. We're not working in person. I actually have spoken to my employers, and they are being optimistic about the vaccine, which we'll get into in just a second. We're not working at work. We're doing everything virtually still, which that's the right thing to do for the remainder of this year. If we're going to have the big meetings like what we had at the MTA in previous occasions in Manhattan, that won't come back until 2021. Either way, that's not coming back until next year. Just like how I don't think I'm going to be labeling mail for the department I work at my hospital, or I don't think I'm going to be transporting residents at my nursing home until then. Because the way things are going right now, this virus is still spreading. And I'm deeply concerned here in the city with the schools opening. I think that's the wrong thing to do. The one person who I think has mishandled this pandemic has been Bill de Blasio. He's been the problem ever since this nightmare started. First of all, the schools should have been shut down sooner. I don't know why he didn't think of closing the schools on March 12th when clearly when you knew a pandemic was just starting on March 11th, that Thursday, the schools should have been closed. They should have just said, we'll reevaluate, and then they could have went to the distant learning anyway, which that's what happened. But that's one mistake de Blasio did. Then, de Blasio kept running his mouth, pointing fingers at people, and what made it even worse was the fact that down the line, he made things worse. It was the wrong thing to do to close the beaches on Memorial Day. What should have happened was, if you were a 5-borough resident, you should have been allowed to use Coney Island. Because Long Island did that to us in the beginning. They said, oh, if you're from the 5 boroughs, you can't use our Long Island beaches. Well, we should have done the opposite. We should have said, if you're going to Coney Island, Orchard Beach, and you're not from the 5 boroughs, you're not allowed on our beach. And what's really dumb about de Blasio, the city could have provided free parking in Coney Island that weekend. They could have had police checkpoints at the aquarium parking lot, which is a huge parking lot. They could have done that, but no, I'm Bill de Blasio. I don't have common sense like Long Island. See, I'm going to say this right now. Laura Curran has a little bit more common sense when it came to this pandemic. Little bit more common sense. Which, the way she's handling this pandemic, she may get a second term next year as county executive the way things are looking. You honestly think they're going to flip to give the Republican back that seat next year? Possibly not. But, yeah, my mayor has mishandled this pandemic. He has done a horrible job. The governor's done a better job handling it. Because Cuomo knows the right buttons to push. The only thing that he can't figure out is the movie theaters. That's a problem. Right now, the way I look at the map right now of New York State, right now, 85% of New York State is open. Here's the other 5%. I'm sorry. I should have said 90. The movie theaters are not open. Pretty much a majority of New York is going to be open by the 30th. And I'm glad Cuomo is doing the indoor dining. It's about time. The weather's getting colder, and if the rate stays the way it is, keep the indoor dining an option in the city. Because I like Cuomo's idea of starting the indoor on the 30th this month, then you go to the 50% the week before my birthday, which either way, I don't think I'm going to be going to a place to dine anytime soon, so at least, hopefully 2021, but Cuomo has gotten that right, but 95% of New York will be back if you have the movie theaters open. Which the issue is, Tenant's already out. It's supposed to be a big blockbuster. You can go to Jersey or Connecticut to see it. But not New York, which seems to be a problem with Cuomo. And I have a friend in Garden City who is in complete agreement with me. Why hasn't Cuomo opened the movie theaters yet? It's been 6 months. I'm not going to go to a theater anytime soon anyway, because with all the nonsense with the MTA I've had to deal with behind the scenes, and then also distribute a national distribution of a top 40 countdown show, I still want to watch stuff online. I haven't even gotten to yet during this pandemic. During the worst of the pandemic, I had to be involved with other crazy MTA matters behind the scenes with Passengers United. So, I'll mention that quickly. Sorry to go off topic there. But, yeah, 6 months. The movie theaters are not open. You got, Tenet out. Wonder Woman 84 is supposed to be out next month in a couple weeks. Then you got the Scarlett Johansson film Black Widow. That's supposed to be out. And then I'm just wondering, I'm just going to look this up very quickly. Has the Top Gun movie been postponed to 2021? Because I think they should do that just in case. I'm just figuring it out at the moment. Okay, good. So they have postponed it to 2021. So how odd is that? The Minions movie, the same weekend in July, is supposed to come out. And that's just crazy. So kudos to Paramount. They've done the right thing. They have done the right thing. But it is getting to a point where AMC has opened a majority of their theaters, but New York has not. So my message to Cuomo is he needs to open the movie theaters, and I'm going to give a realistic date, because at this point, that's the way it looks. I'm going to give a realistic date. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. They pushed Wonder Woman 84 again? I'm first finding this out. I'm looking on a separate tab right now. Okay, so that's the good news. So Cuomo now has a new date he can look into. Let me just see. When's the new date? Wow, they pushed it to Christmas. So it's going to come out on Christmas. So here's my message to Andrew Cuomo. And if he's watching this, or maybe Melissa DeRose is watching this, Governor Cuomo, you need to open the movie theaters by November 6th. Okay? Sorry to yell for a second. But you need to open the movie theaters by November 6th. Because Disney's supposed to release Black Widow. And then Disney has another big release on the 20th with Soul. And then, right, we have Wonder Woman 84 coming out. So, Cuomo, remember what I said, November 6th. We need to open the theaters. And I will say this right now, big kudos to Warner Brothers. Big kudos. Because I'm literally first finding out that this movie that I was supposed to see in June now got pushed back to December. So, big kudos to Warner Brothers. Because then, best case scenario, maybe the theaters might keep it playing for a while and I get the vaccine and I could see it. But yeah, the theaters have got to be reopening. Because they've lost so much money. They have pretty much lost all the revenue they were supposed to get this year. And I'm glad the Tenet finally got a theatrical release, which is very good. But now Cuomo can technically open the theaters in November. So hopefully more indoor stuff is coming in the fall. And I don't want to hear this excuse from Fauci, oh, you need to hunker down. No. What needs to happen is, it's all based on science. And what science does is you look at the numbers. If it's below 5%, you keep it open. If it's above 5%, you hit the panic button and you shut it down again. So once the 95% is left, that leaves the volunteer industry out of a hole. Because people who normally volunteer in person, they were expecting to come back during phase 4. That didn't happen. So, no guidance from the governor on that. That's been left out of the whole discussion during this pandemic was, oh, people who volunteer in nursing homes, blah, 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 they're going to come back. Well, again, everybody was hoping that it was going to be phase 4. That didn't happen. There was no clarity on that. So, once you get that, it's 95%. And also I'll mention that John Carney's done a good job in Delaware. And Larry Hogan's done a good job in Maryland. So, down there in the mid-Atlantic states, they're doing a better job. It's just that Virginia's got to get its act together. Virginia still has way too many people getting infected with COVID. That's got to start changing, because I don't know what's going on in Virginia. I keep looking at the numbers down in Virginia. What is going on down there? They can't seem to contain the virus down in Virginia. The Commonwealth's a big state. I don't know why they can't just figure it out. But you know what it is. It's all politics as usual. The delegates in Richmond are controlled by Republicans. Northam is the Democrat. He's term limited because Virginia has a one-term governor. And I know I'm antsy about this election in Delaware coming up, and I'll get to that. But Virginia, remember, they have one-term governors. So my viewers in Accomack will easily get affected if, that happens. Because they do want to hear what's going on up in New York with my antics. But, I'll make one last point before I transition into politics, and then we'll talk about climate change. The good news is the vaccine looks like it's going to be on time. Now they're thinking it may even be ready in December. So that's good news. And then I keep hearing it may even be November. Let's hit the pause button on that just in case, because I am in agreement with Fauci that the vaccine could be ready in December. There is a chance that this vaccine is going to be ready in December. But you have so many pharmaceutical companies. The leading two right now, you got Pfizer. And then you got AstraZeneca. Now, these are two reputable companies. They've been around for a very long time. Pfizer is a drug company. And then you got AstraZeneca, who provides prescription drug coverage. They help lower the price on prescription drugs for people who can't afford them. So they are reputable companies. AstraZeneca had to pause their trial because somebody got sick, but now they're starting to resume it, which is good news. And then Pfizer's trying to be the lead candidate. So it's going to be a bidding war. But this is where I bring up the stock market before I go to the politics. What is wrong with these people on Wall Street? They got a lot of nerve to keep buying stocks right now. What is wrong with them? You normally would think with Congress being in a stalemate. I was very alarmed when I watched the news from Baltimore last night that there might be another government shutdown on the 30th. All just because they can't get their act together on a second stimulus. And I will mention, I'm very glad the Republican bill was stalled last week. Because the issue is, and we'll get more clarity on the politics in just a second. Why are people on Wall Street more concerned about a bidding war for a vaccine than realizing that the country may go down the toilet if there's no second stimulus? That's the problem right now. These closed-minded individuals don't seem to care that within the next couple of months, even if Trump gets a second term or if Biden wins the election, the issue is going to be is that you're going to have a bidding war with this vaccine. But if there's no second deal, why isn't the market going down? See, normal circumstances, when the government's in a stalemate, you normally see the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, they normally go down. Why are they going up? To me, that doesn't make any sense. See, I have a smart brain, I would be wondering, if I was a stockbroker, I would be talking to other stockbrokers, why are we buying? Why are we buying when we should be selling our stocks right now because Congress can't seem to get their act together on a second stimulus. That's what doesn't make any sense here. And then I'm looking at my phone right now. The Dow's up. Dow's up again. Why is the Dow up again today? The Nasdaq's almost up 200 points today. Why are all the tech stocks going up? Oh, because there's a bidding war on the vaccine. That makes a whole lot of sense to me right there. And then crude oil may go up because of the whole levees down in the Gulf Coast that they have to shut down the oil production because of Hurricane Sally. So, we'll get to that in just a second. We'll get to the climate change. Believe me, I'm going to talk a lot about this climate change. So now we transition into politics. So I just briefly brought up the tease that, we have a stalemate in Congress. The Democrats want to help New York. The Republicans are just giving us the bird. And you can Google that and figure it out on your own, because that's the way it seems. And it's a repeat of the 70s. And everybody knows that pre-pandemic I was starting to have a good working relationship with Larry Schwartz from the MTA. Everybody knows that about me. And Larry had brought up this point. This was back in August, where, he was around in the 70s when him and my dad, of course, even my mom, they were all around, and even most of my family. Everybody remembers when Gerald R. Ford in the mid-1970s told New York to drop dead. Pretty much give us the Charlie. So now, it's 2020. We're dealing with an unimaginable human health emergency. Something that we would never, ever think about. You think I ever thought of a global health emergency shutting down my life? You think most normal people thought about that? My friends in Long Island I normally speak to every day? No! So, you have Donald J. Trump telling us to drop dead. He doesn't care about New York anymore because of Cuomo. Him and Cuomo have a feud right now. And then de Blasio is adding more fire to the fuel. The crime has gotten way out of hand. A couple weeks ago, somebody was idling in their car and they were just shot. Literally, just shot. Like that. The other day, 2 police officers were shot in College Point. And then I find out that a robbery happened near my barbershop in Bayside. Well, my old one, but I'm hoping to go back when this nightmare, as I call it, ends. We have everybody playing politics right now. The crime has gotten way out of hand. It's also going into Long Island. The bail reform is still a mistake. The pandemic is proving it even more. You have these dangerous criminals who don't even belong out in the streets. Don't even belong in the state of New York, being honest. That's how rude I am about it. Dump them in a rural state for all I care. Dump them in like Kansas or something that's rural. Or Nebraska. See how they like it. That's what we're dealing with in New York. Do you think Delaware or Maryland would do a crazy bail reform law? Delaware has 2 main jails. We have a jail in Sussex County. We have a jail up in Smyrna. Yeah, there we go, Smyrna. I got it right. They're not letting the criminals out of those places. They're maximum security prisons. Maryland, I know where I am in Delmarva, we got a big jail out in Snow Hill in Worcester County, which is not that far from Ocean City. Then you got the main prison in Salisbury. You know what they're doing in New York? And I will bring this up to my viewers in Delmarva because they know this too well. I think maybe I've mentioned it to them privately. You know, right now, here in New York, right by my house, we have, get this, 100 inmates for Rikers Island at the Wyndham Garden Hotel on 188th Street. 3-star luxury hotel. They put them there. I even did a video about this. And now on the Upper West Side, they're saying, oh, we're now going to put the homeless in another hotel in Queens. Where in Queens are you putting them? The city hasn't even told us that. The city's not even being transparent. What's upsetting about this Wyndham situation was, and everybody knows the Community Board 8 was not notified, the Fresh Meadows Homeowners Association was not even notified about the inmates being sent to the hotel. The men that were in the hotel, or still aren't in the hotel, are loitering in the wee hours of the morning by Horace Harding Expressway. They're basically making people not go downtown anymore. Yeah, sure, I'm going a little hysterical. I mean, yeah, Applebee's has been busy. And hopefully in 2 weeks, the indoor dining's going to be allowed again. And hopefully we'll be back at 50% in November here in the city. But do you think anybody wants to be in downtown anymore? I mean, Fresh Meadows has become a ghost town. The normal traffic we see on 73rd Avenue during rush hour hasn't been seen in months. Hasn't been seen in months. Fresh Meadows is basically dead right now. Nothing's going on here. It's just become bland and boring. You know? What's the excitement of living here anymore? When, you know, the whole point of being in this area was to have options to go out to Long Island and have options to go out to Manhattan and Brooklyn. You know, that was the whole point of being here. Where you have more excitement in Long Island and then you got more excitement in Manhattan and Brooklyn. You know? That's why I don't try to be in Queens as much that often. Because what's the point of being here? Unless what? Corcoran Park? Fort Totten? You know, everybody's trying to work from home now. And with the crime, it just makes more people scared. It's not just Queens. It's all over the city. And then you have the PBA making it political. You have Pat Lynch supporting Trump. You have de Blasio defunding the police. And not just the police, he's defunded the sanitation department. That's how disgusting it is. Do you think the trash situation on 73rd Avenue's gotten any better? No, my friends, it's gotten a whole lot worse. But it's a tale of two different Fresh Meadows. East of 188th Street, I barely see any trash. West of 188th Street, clear. Clear as a blue sky almost. In fact, I can't look out the window, but we'll get to the climate change stuff in a matter of moments. But now, this is where the climate of the country gets so bad. Finally today, the city of Louisville budged on trying to get some justice for Breonna Taylor, the girl who was killed when the Louisville Police Department went with a no-knock warrant back in March and just randomly killed her. So, explain to me how these two officers who clearly killed Breonna Taylor are not even in prison for cold blank murder. Explain that to me. Explain that to me. And then, you have Trump a couple months ago pepper spraying protesters when the whole George Floyd thing was trending. See, that's the problem with everybody. The news cycle just goes on to one story. Oh, one day it's about a man in Minnesota getting killed by a guy putting his knee on him. The next day, it's about, oh, still no justice for Breonna Taylor. The next day, oh, James Blake gets paralyzed in Wisconsin. You know, the news is a distracting cycle. They'll focus on one story and then just move on to the next. That's how it always works. Even pre-pandemic, it always worked that way. No consistency. But it's always been about the virus. And we know the whole story. Oh, right, Donald Trump. Don't worry, it will be fine. It will go away. It's still here. It's September and it's still here. It's not going away, Mr. President. Not going to go away until we have a vaccine. Potentially. We don't know that for sure. You know, he is in his own little world. Donald Trump. And then what gets me worried about Joe Biden is Biden can't even remember what he's saying. The man is 78 years old. Do you think a man like that should be running for president? No. I've even noticed that Biden falls asleep. So, folks, the United States is not gullible. It's only a matter of time until people in the swing states watch the debates and they realize that Biden may not have the mental capacity to do the job like he used to. That's the problem. That's the issue right there. And then it gets to a point where it's an insult to injury that Jo Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate for president, she's on the ballot in all 50 states. Why isn't she being invited to the debates? Oh, that's right. The League of Women Voters wants to censor the Libertarians. And again, I don't really support the Libertarian Party, but they're technically violating the First Amendment by not allowing a candidate who's going to be on the ballot in all 50 states to even be on the debate stage with Joe Biden and Trump. That's censorship right there. That is complete censorship. You know, the Green Party, they have a nominee, but remember, the Green Party's not on the ballot in all 50 states. Same scenario in 2016 with Jill Stein. She was on the ballot with all 50 states. Now, the only thing with Jo Jorgensen is there's some things I don't agree with her on, so... You know, the thing is, Kamala may have some ultra-liberal views that I don't agree with. You know, this Green New Deal may kill the country. It may kill the country by, you know, taking away airplanes. It may take away, you know, our option to get other things, which I won't get into. But this Green New Deal may kill dairy. That's what I'm worried about. There's these crazy people who say, let dairy die. Let dairy die. It's the circle of life. How are we supposed to be part of the food plate Obama gave us. Not a pyramid anymore, it's a food plate. And you got people who say, oh, you don't need to eat meat anymore. So, that's what I'm afraid of. And then with Trump, the man can't even handle emergencies. So this is a very scary time to be an American right now. No matter who wins this election, the country's screwed anyway. Either you're going to have Joe Biden, who falls asleep on TV all the time and forgets what he's saying, or you're going to have a man who is an egomaniac who thinks in his own little world everything is fine, but not really. And then he doesn't even realize that, I don't care what happens to New York. No! New York is the economic engine of the country. We have the stock exchange here. We have the theater industry. We have the best healthcare in all of America in one state, which is New York. You know, the second closest you can get to right now is Maryland, because we have Hopkins. But thinking about this just gives me so much indigestion. I'm not even going to get to the MTA in this video, because that's a whole nother discussion for another time. But, you know, again, they got to get a deal done. We need transit funding, and we need funding for the post office, because this is supposed to be the largest mail-in vote election in American history. All just because of one pandemic. Do you think the post office is even able to handle the absentee balloting? They won't. And if I don't get my absentee, I'm going to have to really think about voting early, or I'm going to have to vote on actual election day in my polling place. With the mask on. Maybe even gloves. Because I checked the absentee, and they're claiming, it hasn't been approved yet. Well, I'm getting annoyed that me and my dad's application hasn't been approved for an absentee just because of the virus. Which now you have that excuse in New York. But my point is, they got to get a deal done. You cannot have a government shutdown during a pandemic. That's the last thing we need during this. How come nobody in New York is bringing it up? Literally, this is why I try to watch the news from Baltimore. When I'm in Delmarva, I'm glad I get WBAL on my cable box. In Delmarva. I don't know how we still have it, because technically we have WRDE, but I think it's because WRDE's in Delaware and WBAL's in Maryland. So, that's the reason why. And then I know we get Fox 5 DC from on our box too, but you know, the point is, and that's just my last point. You know, the country is going to be in a very bad direction anyway. So, I love to see Larry Hogan run in 4 years, because that's the only way this country's getting fixed right now, is if we get a capable guy like Larry Hogan who knows what he's doing. Because I will say this, Larry Hogan got everything going with the emergency supplies. Now, one last point. I know today is primary day in Delaware. Whenever I upload this, it, won't matter, but Carney should win his primary today. I mean, David Williams, I know he's an accountant, and I get that, but Carney's doing a good job handling the pandemic, so that's not going to be the way I look at it. But the Republican the Republicans are going to be really competitive today. I mean, you got the two leading candidates. You got actually three. My bad. You got Julia Murray, who is an attorney. You got Bryant Richardson, who is a state senator representing District 21. And I will mention that District 21 represents parts of lower Sussex County, Delaware. So that might favor Bryant Richardson to take on John Carney in the November election. And then you got Colin Bonini, who is another state senator. He was actually the guy who took on Carney 4 years ago, but then lost to him. So he's trying at it again. So might be a repeat anyway. Because remember, Delaware is a mix of two states. You got the liberals who live in Newcastle. And then Kent is actually a swing county. Because Northern Kent is Democrat. South of Dover, you got your ultra-conservatives. Sussex is way conservative. They have a lot of Republicans down there. So, Delaware, believe it or not that many people know it like I do, but Delaware is a mixed state. And, you know, one of the hot button issues should be, what are we going to do about the traffic light cameras? You know, because of this pandemic, nobody's really thought about that. But I hope if there is a debate, and hopefully there will be in Delaware, that has to be brought up because I'm sick and tired of worrying about traffic light cameras. Thank goodness in Delaware, we are legally allowed to have a red light camera monitor. We have a way to track it in the car. We know where the speed traps are. Not just that, the speed traps are completely ridiculous in Delaware. I mean, why are they trying to... We also have a speed trap radar. That's banned in Virginia. We know if we use that in Virginia, we get busted easily. So in Virginia, it's bad too. But in Delaware, it's a nightmare. That has to be brought up in a debate. Because there's too many speed traps in Delaware. It needs to stop. I'm sick of it. You know, all the traps they put on the three major highways, 13, 113, and then Route 1. Why are there so many of them? It's even worse when you get south at Rehoboth Beach. So, that has to be brought up. Like, that's my main issue in this election is the speed traps. You know, I'm very concerned that when I do go back down there, we're going to get a ticket because supposedly we're not supposed to be speeding. We don't have that in New York. Why does Delaware do it? I will mention one last thing. My hairstylist, my new guy in Roslyn, he's in agreement with me. You know, why is it so hard to drive in Delaware? Now, Newcastle, I will say, it's not bad to drive, which that's why I'm thinking of moving to Newcastle. If New York does have to go down a bad route. Because at least in Newcastle, I've noticed that things are well kept up there in Newcastle. So, I am really thinking about moving. Because at least down the line, you got the nursing home jobs that are eventually going to be hiring because of all the all the baby boomers are leaving the expensive states and want to go to Delaware. Which, can I blame them? No. They're smart. Alright, and maybe I'll bring it up. Let me just see if I can Google it. Has anybody announced who's running in the gubernatorial election next year in Virginia? Oh, lovely. Fairfax is running. Why aren't I surprised? If you don't know who he is, he's Justin Fairfax is the lieutenant governor who serves under Northam. Okay, so you got Jennifer Foy, a state delegate. Now you have Now, this is interesting. Somebody, a Senate district near Enrico County where Richmond is, Jennifer McLennan. So, this is interesting. Looking her up right now, she's 47. So she's pretty young. And Fairfax is, Fairfax is 41, but here's the problem. People are going to complain, oh, we put Fairfax in, it's another 4 years of Northam. So, I'm going to say this right now, and this is going to be interesting. I'm wondering if McLouth's going to run again, because he has filed the paperwork. So, it may be a very competitive thing, because remember, Virginia only has one-term governors. And then Maryland's election's not until 2022. You have Republican Amanda Chase. How old is she? Oh, she's 50. Okay, so that's young too. The 11th district is in the middle of Virginia. So, going to be competitive as usual. Very competitive. But again, the Democrats seem to just have more control in Virginia these days. So only time will tell. Alright, lastly, let's talk about climate change. So, climate change is becoming another big problem right now. By technically staying at home all these months, we may have actually hurt the planet. Yeah, I know, domino effect. Because all the carbon that's been in the air is now being let out. All that human pollutant we've done pre-pandemic, it's now coming to haunt us. Do you know how alarming it is with all these hurricanes we have in the Atlantic? We've wiped out the complete the American alphabet. We're going to the Greek alphabet. We're going to the Greek alphabet. So, that's sad to think that Vicky is the last name. And I'm actually more concerned about Teddy, because now they think Teddy's going to form into a major storm sometime later this week. And I'm very concerned about the track because it keeps moving to the west. And I'm very concerned it could hit Delmarva by the end of the month. So that will have to be closely monitored, because if it keeps moving to the west, I'm very worried the beaches are going to be impacted. So that will have to be monitored. But all these storms are forming because you got, everything going wrong with the tropics. The jet stream is out of sync. The jet stream is not able to block all the moisture that forms these hurricanes. We saw what Laura did a couple weeks ago. Lake Charles is still... First of all, my heart goes out to everybody in Lake Charles who's still dealing with the aftermaths of Hurricane Laura. Sally is making landfall in Mobile, Alabama at this moment. And also, I will mention the wildfires in California. My heart also goes out to everybody dealing with them right now. My friend Elliot, he was supposed to come out to New York he was actually supposed to move out to Long Island. Believe it or not, we kept talking about it the past couple of months, that even during the pandemic, he wanted to come out here. So he's still thinking of moving out here, because I can't blame him with all the wildfires out in the San Francisco Bay Area he's dealing with right now. It's awful. He's supposed to live with his buddy out in Suffolk County. We were going to meet halfway down the line, that we were going to meet somewhere in Comac whenever this nightmare does end. But down the line, it does get to a point where you say enough is enough. We gotta take action on our climate. And I'm glad Joe Biden's bringing it up. Now, there might be one positive of a Biden presidency, even if he doesn't fall asleep. Somebody has got to talk about climate change. Because Trump has rolled back the regulations. Pulling out of the Paris Climate Accord was a horrible mistake, and now we're seeing the consequences of it. I saw, even during the Obama years, they kept claiming, if we pull out of the Paris Climate Accord, the United States pulling out of it could be drastic implications. The whole point of it was to be unified to stop climate change. And we're not unified. Why do you think we're seeing everybody dealing with the wildfires? And I will mention, there's this YouTube channel I've been watching the past couple of months during the pandemic about baubles. Go check them out. It's Hearts of Armor. The lady who owns the two baubles and the Chihuahua out there, her baubles can't even go outside because of all the wildfire smoke. How sad it is to be that these two young dogs who were rescued, father-son dogs, a couple years ago, were rescued. Right? I recently just saw a picture of the puppy on their story just a couple days ago. When the younger Bormal was a puppy. That puppy was lucky back then. But the father and son can't even go outside because of all the wildfire smoke. Try being a dog in your prime years. Imagine if Teddy, my old Bormal, was dealing with wildfire smoke and he couldn't go outside in his backyard. When he was their age. It's also impacting animals. Not just humans. The good thing about dogs, during this pandemic, they don't have to social distance. They're not spreading the virus to other canines. No. So now they don't have that interaction with other dogs. Thanks to this pandemic, and now thanks to the natural disasters we have. We've seen so many unusual weather patterns happening with the hurricanes, with the wildfires. Last week, Denver saw snow. Yeah, you heard me. Denver saw snow. In September. Not normal, right? Climate change at work. And it does get to a point where we gotta take action. So I hope the climate change does get brought up in the presidential debates in a couple weeks. We gotta take action. Because we don't get involved in climate change, we're gonna see these unusual weather events keep happening. We're going to keep seeing more wildfires. We're going to keep seeing more hurricanes. We're going to keep seeing more humid summers in New York. I'm glad today's a decent cool day, but the issue is that wildfire smoke made it all the way to New York. It's spreading. You may think I'm crazy for saying it, but Pine Power LI posted a video yesterday of the sunset. He was able to watch the sunset yesterday. I was even able to watch the sunset yesterday here in Queens, and I was wondering, why was it so smoky? Why did it look so odd? Oh, right, because the wildfires. And one last point. Last week in San Francisco, the sky was orange. Orange. You tell me how that's normal. And before I wrap this up, I'm going to address something with my critics who claim, oh, you don't leave your house. You're not exposing the quality of life issues you used to do pre-pandemic. Well, again, why do I need to be outside when even if I wear the mask, they've even said this, if you wear the mask, you could still get the virus. It's still possible you can get the virus. Touch something, you get the virus. Even if you wash your hands so many times. So COVID's still spreading. So, I'll say this to wrap it up. For police brutality, it needs to stop. We need to get involved in climate change. We need a vaccine. Hopefully it will be on time in December or January, like Dr. Anthony Fauci's claiming. We have got to make sure we vote anyway, so that way we can still prove that democracy works. And, let's just be civil with each other right now. And to Congress, please get a deal done. We need a second stimulus. Saying it time and time again. The MTA needs money. The post office needs money. The hospitals even need money. Norfolk got the most federal funds from the first stimulus, the CARES Act. Hospital workers are heroes too. They deserve funding as well. And I do hope that I'll be back in 3 months. And I want to be in front of this camera once again and talk about the expectations for 2021. Because I'm secretly planning them, but I'd rather feel comfortable doing it in December. So you have my word on that. So with that, thank you all for watching. I'm glad we can have a one-on-one social distance talk like this. I still have a platform to do it and be responsible at the same time. And again, to my critics, you'll see me back next year. You'll see me back. If you're claiming that I'm lazy or you need to do something, my message is wait until 2021. Thank you for watching.